Today marks the first day of tier list Tuesdays. It's not going to be every Tuesday where we have a tier list, and it's not going to be exclusively on Tuesdays, but the point is that it's like emotionally it's Tuesdays. Like the same way how you have Taco Tuesdays and you can have tacos on Thursdays as well. We could have tier lists on any day, but it's tier list Tuesdays. The way I want to do it is instead of doing like one big tier list, which takes hours and hours and hours, and it's hard to kind of contextualize like all my thoughts to begin with, I want to split it up into 5 segments. The 5 competitive roles that we have in Competitive Unite, which in the bottom lane, there's a support, there's a tank, and then there's a damage dealer or the attacker. There's normally a jungler or a central area Pokemon. Sometimes it's an attacker, sometimes it's a speedster, sometimes it could be anything. And then there's the top lane Pokemon, which the way the game's worked out is generally an all-rounder, but it doesn't always have to be. Or, you know, as some of you guys might know, it's considered like the 1-1-3 meta. 1 top, 1 mid, 3 bottom. And I figured no better way to start than by doing a tier list on the support role, which is what I play. We're gonna have different tier lists for different weeks. And ideally, you know, if this is something that you guys enjoy, especially enjoy on YouTube, we'll bring on my teammates and I'll bring on Zugrug, and Zugrug and I will do the tank tier list. I'll bring on Toon, and Toon and I will do the jungle tier list. With Tana, we'll do the top lane, with Goof, we'll do the attacker. And in fact, I would say that right now, if you're watching it on YouTube, to comment and ask and let me know which teammate you want to see me bring on next. And I would say if we get 500 likes on the video, we could do it next week. 500 is asking for a lot. I don't think any of my videos gotten 500. But if you guys smash the like button, we should be able to do it. There's some things that we need to get out of the way. I can already see, you know, some people in the chat are asking now. We had people in the chat asking earlier as well. Like, where's Wiggly? Why is there Pikachu? Why is there A9? And I'm going off of roles that I think are generally accepted within Competitive Unite and kind of how I view the game from my perspective and other competitive players, I guess. And in that, from that point of view, your traditional supporters that you would see like right here, these 5 aren't all really played as supporters. In fact, I would go as far to say in the current meta, only Eld and Hoop are played as supporters. And even Blissey is played as a tank, as a bottom lane tank. Mr. Mime has always been played that way, and so has Wiggly. But there's some surprising picks on here that you might not have expected, some you might have seen. We'll talk about them as the time comes. So, starting off, what is the supporter, right? The game defines a supporter as just, I guess, a Pokemon that has any kind of healing and shielding. So Blissey's got heals and shield, so does Eld. Hoopa's got Trick, Spawn Berries, a Hyperspace Hole to send you back. Mr. Mime's like healing in-game, I guess, is on Guard Swap, but it's not very effective. And then Wiggly's is on their Unite with the AoE shielding. But Wiggly, I would say, doesn't really get classified as a support. So what does make a support is a Pokemon that's not farm reliant, right? So they're strong at all points in the game, whether it's level 1, 2, 3, 5, 9, 11. They're always effective, and they don't require farm to become effective. And they don't need to be scaling into the late game. Like a level 11 Cinderace at Zap, pretty useless. A level 11 Eldegoss, you know, that's like their power spike. So they do well with low farm. And as a result of not being too farm reliant, they make really good use of XP share. And for those of you guys who don't know what XP share is, just like a basic rundown, if you're the lowest level on your team, you generate more experience from taking out neutral Pokemon, the wild Audinos, Apoms, and while you happen to be the lowest XP on the team, you also gain additional bonus XP. The item is really, really powerful. You always want to have one on your team, and the person that's wearing it is almost exclusively going to be considered the support. And then in addition to all of that, they're strong at all points in the game. They can utilize the XP share, so they don't rely on having other items as well. They also provide supportive abilities. So like we talked about earlier, They could be like healing, they could be shielding, or in other ways, it could be speed as well. You know, Helping Hand from Blissey, Leaf Tornado from Eldegoss, Trick from Hoopa, they all provide speed. Guard Swap as well, but not as powerful. So they provide some kind of ability to enable your teammates to deal damage and stay alive longer in the team fights. And then finally, an important characteristic that isn't exclusive to supports, but so far the supports we've had in the game also generally get to be pretty tanky. And in smaller skirmishes, they're really good at staying alive. They can, you know, hold a point 1v2 effectively, or they can stay alive really long. So all, you know, the meta supports, but even all the Pokemon in here, minus maybe Pikachu, you'll notice are pretty tanky as well. So let's get started. I think the obvious choice that most people are kind of familiar with, and the Pokemon that'll sit on its own in the S tier, is Hoopa. You pretty much need to have this Pokemon in competitive on your team. And the reason you need to have it, and it's like almost, it's borderline non-negotiable to play without it, is just because it allows your team to open up the map, and then Hoopa uses their Unite move, everyone teleports in, and you can have, you know, one person backcapping, you can have people farming, you can have people defending points, and then Dreadnought spawns or Zapdos spawns, and everyone comes through. That's really important. But on top of that, you know, Hoopa does a lot of damage when they're in the Unbound form. They have a lot of, you know, they have good CC with their stun. And the meta build right now being Trick Shadow Ball. Trick gives, you know, just a massive shield, so it keeps your squishy characters alive longer, gives them movement speed. It deals additional damage with the Trick, so you're doing, you know, good utility. Shadow Ball synergizes as well with Trick to line them up for stuns. And as I talked about earlier, Hoopa is strong at all points in the game. You start the game level 1 with an AoE stun. You start the game level 1 with the ability to steal enemy team's berries. So if one team has a Hoopa and the other doesn't, there's just net gain on berries on the map in the early game, which is a 1500 heal. And Hoopa's a ranged attacker who gets to leverage a muscle band. And you'll notice all the ranged supporters on this list, at least the meta ones, are always running Buddy Barrier, which is obvious to most people watching. You should understand why Buddy Barrier is good. EXP Share, which we talked about already. And then Muscle Band, which allows all of these ranged Pokemon to get away with dealing a lot of damage in the lane, when they might not have been able to because they don't have damaging abilities. But because Muscle Band scales off of max HP, they get to deal damage, and Hoopa uses that really well. So clear S tier pick. The next one, and it kind of saddens me a little bit to see Eld sit in the A tier of anything, but it is Eldegoss. Eldegoss has been S tier pretty much as a supporter since Pokemon Unite came out. It's been nerfed over and over again. On Guard's gotten 2 or 3 nerfs. Leaf Tornado's gotten a nerf. Their Unite move early on got nerfed, and then very recently got a small buff. But Pokemon is still really strong. It fulfills our criteria of support, where they're really strong at all points in the game. And one of the things that goes underappreciated for Eldegoss is this move right here, Synthesis. At level 3, which is like the early part of the lane, which you might be on as a Gossifleur, Synthesis does a 430 AoE heal, right? So think about it this way. If I heal myself and 2 of my allies in the tri-lane and I get max value, as in like we've taken some damage, that's 860, 12, 1320. So about 1300 healing at level 3, which is the start of the game. There's no spell in the game that's doing 1300 damage in an AoE if it lands on 3 people at that point in the game. There's just nothing. Like, maybe I don't even know which Pokemon I would look to even think about at level 3 can do something like that. Like, maybe Water Gun if you hit a 3-man Water Gun, right? But how often are you hitting a 3-man Water Gun at perfect range? I don't like. Stuff like that just doesn't exist in the game at that point. And Synthesis has such a low cooldown, and you don't have to aim it. Your teammates just walk nearby, and they just fully get healed. So it keeps you sustained in the tri-lane. The Muscle Band helps you deal damage. Pokemon is strong at all points in the game, and enables your team with Leaf Tornado speed. Has good pressure in terms of the Unite moves, keeping people alive. So Eldegoss safe pick for A tier. And normally in competitive, when you are running Eldegoss, it's because you already have a Hoopa on your team. So I would say, like, you can't really remove the Hoopa on your team, but, you know, in that case, Hoopa gets transitioned into the attacker role. And when we do the attacker tier list, I'm gonna have Hoopa in there as well for that reason. And then you have your Eld running in the support role. Let's talk about, I think, the only Pokemon that I'm gonna put in the B tier. And it's gonna be B for Blissey. Now, this is another Pokemon like Hoopa that is going to be in multiple tier lists, in multiple roles. Because right now in the meta, I would say Blissey is probably an A tier Pokemon. But that's because Blissey in the meta is traditionally ran as a tank. The reason why it's ran as a tank is, you know, and we'll get into this more in the tank tier list video, but the tank's job normally in the lane is to help secure last hits and to soak damage, which is exactly what Blissey does with Pound. But in the supporter role, when Blissey has an XP share on and isn't as focused on helping secure last hits, and maybe someone else in the lane is taking responsibility over that, they still function great as a support. They provide, again, healing in the form of soft boiled if you end up going that. Or right now, what's really popular is Safeguard. Gives you unstoppable, gives you a shield. Helping Hand enables your team to do more damage. And if you notice a trend, Trick gives movement speed, Leaf Tornado gives movement speed, Helping Hand gives movement speed. Like, movement speed is such an important aspect in the game. Not only does it just help you move around the map faster, but just in the middle of team fights, being able to reposition, being able to go, you know, kite around the fight, run into a bush, get out of a bush. Movement speed is really, really, really strong. And on top of that, Blissey, you know, Helping Hand just helps you burn objectives. And then Blissey's Unite move is fully support. You know, it makes your teammate tankier, makes them deal more damage. It completely enables them to play the game. So in previous metas, we've seen Blissey ran as a support. In the current meta, it's more so as a tank. If we did see it ran as a support in this meta, it would almost definitely be met with a Hooper in the attacker spot, again, because Hoopa is just that important to have on your team. It's a free full heal for Pokemon like Lucario, for Pokemon like Venusaur, Greninja. All these Pokemon really, really benefit from Safeguard. And it's a meta Pokemon, just probably not in the support role. So I would say it's a suboptimal alternative in the support role, but definitely viable. And I think for the supports, there's probably one in each role here. Maybe other roles, or one in each tier here. Other roles might have multiple S tier, multiple A tier, multiple B tiers. But for the support role, not only do we not have a lot of Pokemon, but the choices between the Pokemon we do have are pretty easy to make considering their power levels. So let's talk about some niche picks that, in my opinion, aren't very good, but have shown some promise, can be played potentially, but generally any one of these three Pokemon, primarily the, you know, Hoopa and Eld, are just gonna outperform them in almost every way. But we'll talk about Slowbro first. So Slowbro is one that I think a lot of teams have experimented with, and it kind of fits the mold where it's strong in the early game because it's extremely tanky with their passive ability. It's a ranged Pokemon, so they get to have the ability to leverage Muscle Band, which we talked about. And Slowbro doesn't really need a lot of farm. Like level 11 is their power spike, and after level 11, all the levels you get are just luxury. But this Pokemon, like the other supporters that we defined, doesn't have anything that explicitly shields your teammates, heals them, or anything like that. So it kind of serves as a tank in that perspective, which is where, you know, you do normally see Slowbro played. But I think we've seen it before and it's possible. You can definitely run a build like Buddy, Muscle, X-Fisher on Slowbro. And your job can be to enable your team by CCing them and just not focusing a lot on farm. So by that definition, I guess you could have Wiggly here as well, but I think you'd almost never see Wiggly with the X-Fisher on, just because they're so good at securing last hits to begin with. And then it also fits the mold, like I said, in terms of being viable at all points in the game. Like, you know, level 1 through 3 is a little bit rough with Water Gun, but Water Gun's a decent secure. Once you have Surf, you're really tanky. You've evolved, you're looking good, especially if you're running Potion. You know, if you're just taking damage for your team, you're almost healing them or preventing them from dying in that sense. The next one I would say is Blastoise. This hasn't seen like a lot of play in support. There's a draft tourney where I played it as support. We won that game, but that game was pretty rough to begin with. And Blastoise, you know, it does what other supporters are asked to do in the sense that it's strong at almost all points in the game. Water Gun, we talked about at the start, and I'll show you guys again, is a pretty good damaging spell. Like at level 3, that's almost 600 damage per target. And one of the good things about Blastoise is they can reposition the farm in the tri lane to make it easier for your team to secure it. So they support that way. Excellent holder of Muscle Band, which is another criteria we gave them. And then like the next one I'm going to talk about, Pikachu. Blastoise is a really quick charging Unite move, which allows them to provide their team with shielding, which is another important aspect of supporting. But they can provide their team with more frequent buddy barriers because their Unite move charges quicker than the average Pokemon. So, you know, it's okay. It's not a great supporter. It's got some really big drawbacks. If you notice all of these other Pokemon, Hoopa, Eld, Blissey, Slowbro, they all get their abilities at level 4 and 6. But Blastoise, which is the only Pokemon on this list, unlocks their spells and their additional moves at 5 and 7, which is a problem because a lot of times you know, in the early game, you're not going to have those types of levels. Right now, Blastoise definitely seen more of as a jungler, potentially a top laner, not a great support Pokemon. But if there's ever a draft tournament or, you know, there's ever a big Blastoise buff, I wouldn't be surprised to see this ran more in that role. Traditionally, it's with Surf Pump, though. You know, you use that as utility, use your Unite move as shielding, and then you have a Muscle Band in the lane, a ranged Muscle Bander. The next Pokemon I have on this list, and this is an interesting one. I think this is the one I imagined most people would have issue with, and it's Pikachu. And I'd say Pikachu is probably the best one of the ones here so far. The reason why I mentioned Pikachu is while it doesn't have anything in its kit that explicitly heals or shields or makes your team quick faster, it has the fastest charging Unite move in the game, 89 seconds. It means your buddy barrier is also up way more often, and you can use Pikachu as their Unite move as just a pure buddy barrier shield. Is it very good? No, but if we look back at the items I said supports are traditionally running, buddy barrier, it's right there. Muscle Band, you have a really long attack range and fast attack speed to get good poke damage with Muscle Band. And then you can run XP share on top of it. You don't necessarily need a focus band or damage items. And then you don't have healing or shielding as Pikachu, but you do have the ability to zone people out with your Thunder combo. And this is one that's seen play on the official stage, the Japan Winter Finals. For those of you guys who watched it with me, the Snow Rabbits, they ran a tri-lane of Mime, Venusaur, Pikachu, with Pikachu on XP share. And they ended up winning this game. They have a Muscle Band to be able to zone people out, which is what an Eldegoss would do in the lane, or a Hoopa would nowadays. They have good poke with, you know, they have CC in the lane, and they can run XP share to help their team get additional farm. So while this team, in my opinion, dropping the Eldegoss, and this is pre-Hoopa days, so dropping Hoopa, probably not the best idea. It's definitely viable if you have like a particular game plan in mind, right? And their game plan was to have Talonflame, Pika with fast charging Unite moves, Mime with the fast charging Unite move, and then a bunch of damage and CC, all to funnel in their hard carry Venusaur, and then give shields as well to their Lucario. So not a bad strategy, and like definitely a Pokemon you can see ran in that slot, and it fits the role. It's good at all points in the game. It uses the items very well. does not need farm to be effective, and it has a way to shield their teammates, albeit with their Unite move, which any Pokemon can do, but the PIKACHU can do it the most effectively with a low cooldown ult. Next two, these ones I added in only because they were being asked about a lot, and they kind of fit the roles that I've given other Pokemon in this list, but I think they do it pretty poorly. So I'm gonna put them at the end of the tier list. I still don't think they're good, but and I don't think I've seen any gameplay with them. It's possible you might have seen Mime with a support XP Sharon, but Mime isn't that great at all points in the game. Like, Mime until level 3 is pretty mediocre. All it really has is Clap to secure. So you really want to rush to level 4. And now that Confusion's been nerfed, it's not that great of a spell just on level 4. It is a good last-hitting securing tool, but again, that's like much better in the tank spot. And then if you want to support with Guard Swap, which is what people imagine it to be ran with, since Guard Swap would make your squishier Pokemon tankier and give them movement speed, which is how we define a support. Gives them movement speed, makes them tankier. You could, but it only works on one of your teammates. It requires them to always stay positioned near you, and the trade-off for all of that isn't even that high. And if you wanted to start healing, they need to be level 13 on Mr. Mime. And remember what I said, supports need to be viable at all points in the game. Mr. Mime's level 3 is pretty mediocre. Level 4 you get a power spike, and then 4 and 5 are pretty weak levels when you have light screen. So you need level 6 to be even more effective. And it just doesn't get a lot of value. So I don't think it's very good, but I will give it the merit of at least putting it on the tier list and sorting it towards the end. And then the other one, and maybe I put this one in the middle, is Alolan Ninetales. Again, it kind of fits all the criteria that we set up, right? It's a ranged attacker that leverages Muscle Band. It's good at all points in the game. Like, Vulpix is pretty strong, especially if you're not expected to be farming. Aurora Veil at level 6, you get it pretty early on in the game, is an AoE ability that makes your entire team tankier, which is what we talked about supports doing. But it pretty much ends about there, right? If you're just relying on Aurora Veil and a weakened Ninetales to be your support, I think you're probably getting a lot of value elsewhere. And the other thing that A9 doesn't have that every single one of these Pokemon, barring Pikachu, has, is that they're not very tanky on their own. Like, without their moves, A9 is very, very squishy. And A9 also doesn't have a very impactful Unite move, which you see every other Pokemon on this list has a really, really impactful Unite move, right? Koopa brings everyone through the portals. We already talked about how broken that is. Alda has AoE healing damage and knockback. Blissey has an incredible single target supporting ability. Slowbro locks down an enemy Pokemon for a good portion of the fight, regardless if they're unstoppable. Pikachu, we talked about frequent Unite move. Buddy Barrier, Blastoise, same idea. Mime, same idea. Very frequently charged Unite moves. Mime does AoE stun. Blastoise also does a big AoE stun. But A9 doesn't have anything like that. So I'd say A9's back here in terms of power level, like maybe around the middle. These two Pokemon, I'd say, if I were to make another tier where I called it unviable, I would probably put them here. Like, these three I could potentially see. These two, it would be hard to justify. That being said, like, the bread and butter is going to exist at the top of the tier list, and the support role isn't very flexible in terms of what you can put in. But they are really, really powerful when you do play them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That wraps it up. Like I said, if you guys want to see me do more of them, you know, let me know, obviously, either in chat or in the comments on YouTube. And let me know which one you guys want to see me do it with. I was thinking the first 3 we could do are just the tri-lane, like, you know, me and Zug do the tank, and then me and Goof do the attackers. But if you guys are really interested in the jungle tier list, I could ask Toon. Really interested in the top tier list, top lane tier list, we could ask Lutano as well. 500 likes, and I do another one next week. We need 500 likes in a week. And in the comments, I need to know Which tier list do you want me to do next? Attacker with Goof, tank with Zug, jungle with Toon, or top lane with Lutano?